Yeah. You're becoming more Chinese by the day.
My microphone's in the wrong place.
Your what?
My microphone's in the wrong place.
Why is there a right place to have it?
Because this is flipping around.
Yeah, but why is like one?
Oh no, that's okay. I'm just gonna move the chain there because it's gonna fuck with it.
Oh no, maybe you know something like really obscure about the microphone placement that I don't know.
I was joking to my friends about the last episode being the first podcast with a Chinese tea ceremony at the start.
What do you say?
It's like, I'm sure it's happened before. But then name a time. Name when Joe Rogan has done a tea ceremony at the start of his...
Exactly. Podcast. Like the mainstream ones. I mean, no, none of them. There is a guy, do you know this American guy that is a stand-up comedian? Well, he was a stand-up comedian here in China. And now he doesn't have a podcast, but he does content about tea tradition, tea flavors, and things like that. No, he's really a connoisseur.
I don't follow tea Twitter or tea tube or Chinese tea social content.
Maybe you should.
Well, I did see a lecture by a tea professor, like a white tea professor from America.
White tea professor or tea white professor?
No, he's a white guy who's a professor
you say
of
white tea.
I think it would be too niche to only study white tea. Yeah, and I was impressed by his lecture, but he seemed like a very offline guy.
Is that supposed to be good?
That's good. I would prefer my tea professors to be offline and not doing like menswear guy like fights online about.
Oh no! That's gonna be. I mean, if you're gonna be online, I have nothing against people who are online because I'm really online.
Yeah,
but I guess choose a way to not be obnoxious.
I trust professionals more when they spend less time on Twitter, and like. A blue sky professor is better than a Twitter professor. Yeah. But a professor who doesn't use any posting platform, I don't trust at all.
I think nowadays there is no way to not be online if you want to diffuse any kind of content.
There's a load of like left-wing Marxist academics, like the old guys in America and Britain, who are now on Xiaohongshu because they write big books on Marx. Or something.
You just made me think about Noah Chomsky getting on Xiaohongshu and getting roasted.
Guys just like him. But like, because Noam Chomsky I don't think is a Marxist, but these guys are like,
he's a weird guy anyway.
Yeah. But it's great because there's a British professor who writes loads of books on Marx. And he put a video up on Xiaohongshu and all the comments are just calling him a Trotskyist. But it's all other British guys calling him a Trotskyist. Reactionary. Yeah. But the Chinese guys are fine. Like, it's just the British people in the comments calling him a trot, which is great because they're bringing like British leftist infighting onto Red
Yeah, exactly. What do you have, how like out of work you have to be to just choose, you as a British guy, choose to make an account into a Chinese website just to call a British guy a Trotskyist?
Well, if you're a British leftist and you see a guy who's paid well and lives in a nice house also posting on Xiaohongshu, you'd be like, Trot!
Yeah, but I already have an account.
Traitor!
So yeah.
And it's definitely like the oldest Stalinist in Britain. Like,
okay, so he's a Stalinist and he gets called Trotskyist.
No. The professor who lives in a nice house is a Trotskyist who publishes books and is all very smart and intelligent. And the guy in the comments calling him a Trotskyist, it's like, he's like the guy I met at the Marxist Society meetings in Southampton who told me the sailors in Kronstadt deserved it. Like,
I mean, that's average.
That's a real story, by the way. That did happen to me.
That's average Stalinist behavior.
Exactly.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. He was a very funny guy.
The bad thing about Trotsky is like in many things he was right. But he was really fucking stupid all over the war.
Well, I'm a glass half full guy. Trotskyists are very good at some things, including selling newspapers in the high street, and not so good at other things.
He was really good leading the army.
And selling newspapers.
Yeah. Didn't he take the army against the rebellion in Kronstadt?
Trotsky took the army against the Kronstadt sailors. I do not know. We're going to have to litigate this.
Wasn't he the general at that time?
I think so. Sounds about the right time.
Yeah, so it was like funny to hear a Stalinist saying like, yeah, Kronstadt sailers deserve it. And then it was Trotsky who did it.
Trotsky did wrong. Well, they always be like, I like his early work. He fell off.
I'm just a fan, yeah.
He fell off.
The first years were fine. After that, yeah.
He fell off. He crashed out. Well, the other Zoomer terminology that you can use for Trotsky. Trotsky didn't faith-mog anyone, that's for sure.
That's for sure. Hey, Stalin did. Point for Stalin. I was about to... Yeah, do you also remember like talking about people getting roasted on Xiaohongshu? Did I talked to you about the Israeli guy.
Yes, yeah.
That is like
yeah.
pretending to know Chinese.
He's
knows
doing really
basic
cute
Chinese.
stuff, and yeah.
And just publishes a video saying, "Oh, the weather is good." And
Yeah.
trying to get some Chinese girls, and all the people are saying like, "Go back to your fucking country, you fucking Israeli piece of shit," things like that. So I think if you compare it to Twitter, the behavior in Xiaohongshu is really well contained. Like it's mostly on the right side.
People are more normal on Xiaohongshu, but that's because Twitter's like a cesspit.
Yes.
I mean, people are more normal on Xiaohongshu than they are on Blue Sky, I would say that. But I think it's hard to compare because the political stuff here is different. I mean, you've got like the right-wing nationalist Chinese who you don't see on other platforms who are like, I'm a woman who plays video games. Rah, you fucking pig.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
But that's because they're gamers.
I think actually that kind of stuff you see on Twitter too. But it's only the bad behavior on Xiaohongshu, I'd say, is very isolated to like some video gaming people or some like. It's got a bit of Blue Sky too, actually. I did see when Mugenics came out. It's really fucking funny. I typed in Mugenics into Xiaohongshu because I wanted to see what the reviews were. There's the IGN Zhongguo account, which does really good stuff. They make IGN China is crazy. I want to work for them. But then there's the second most liked post was an animal rights activist being like, this Mugenics game is sick. You take poor disabled cats and pit them against each other. I was like crying, laughing. And all the comments, because it's a completely different circle of the internet, like the animal rights people in China who have their own fight to go and fight. They see Mugenics and they think this is really fucked up. So they have this like PETA type response to it. Like the content of this game is sickening.
Like when PETA was making content against Pokemon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sickening. Maybe. Is it fun? Definitely.
Yeah.
It's really fucking fun. So.
But it kind of reminded me about the people on like Blue Sky finding out about the voice actors in Mugenics.
Okay, but I think we can agree on that. That was really problematic all across the world.
No, I don't care because
you have it clean.
5 years ago. I'm still pro Mugenics voice actors.
That was 5 years ago, but then you can still like.
I'm not surprised. I'm surprised they didn't have like Sam Hyde in the voice actors. I'm always a Sam Hyde apologist because I think some of the old stuff is funny. And so when I see a name in the credits or something, even though he donated $15,000 to a Nazi organization, I'm like, come on.
Yeah, like Trotsky. The early years were fine.
Trotsky, yeah. Trotsky and Sam Hyde, famously similar political persuasions.
If they met, I think they would get along quite well.
Both of them will probably die in Mexico one day. Trotsky from a pickaxe and Sam Hyde from a testosterone overdose or something.
I mean, he's close to failure.
Steroid abuse.
He's training the heart to failure.
He looks like the fucking. I mean, one of the jokes about Mugenics is it's like the pitbull breeding post on Instagram, and Sam Hyde looks like one of those. 4x babe, 1x motherfucker.
But you know why he looks like that? It's not because of the testosterone.
No.
It's because the growth hormone.
Oh, right, growth hormone.
He takes
fantastic.
like a massive cocktail of things that you are only supposed to take if you're into like professional bodybuilding, and if you work out really hard at the same time. And
he's probably eating like gorilla chow every day.
Yeah.
Like zoo animal feed.
The problem with these things is that if you take testosterone and all of these things, you're taking years off your life anyway.
Yeah.
But if you don't work out at the same time, the side effects for your body, the growth that you make is completely unnatural and completely horrendous.
You do look like a Mugenics character.
Yeah, exactly. It's horrendous anyway, but it's more horrendous if you don't work out. And that's what happened with him.
Well, one day one of them will be in the White House and that will be very funny. Don't say Hegseth, because Hegseth just does alcohol and steroids and he looks relatively... Oh, RFK, I suppose. He looks a bit...
RFK, he takes a shitload.
He looks like a freak. But I'm not... I don't know. One day it will be the life-extending guy in the White House.
No way. No, I mean, I think his heart is on the right side for that one,
He saw the before and after pictures of Obama and he was like, no, not for me.
Talking about the USA, what is our topic for today?
That's a bad segue. I had one earlier from Sam Hyde, which was like talking about another beast who doesn't take no for an answer.
You see, you should have just stopped me right there. Yeah, that was a nice lead out.
Yeah, it's okay. This will be the mid-roll. And then we'll talk about... So today, on the Days of Being Wild, episode 7, we're going to be talking about the organization Huawei. and its founder, Ren Zhengfei, whose name I'm probably going to say wrong at some point later in the episode.
Probably.
The history of Huawei, where it came from, what the situations around the rise of the company were, and what's with Huawei now. Why was it in the news a lot in 2019 and 2023, and what's happened since all the headlines from 2023?
So what was for all the people that are listening to us right now, I think they are already very familiar with Huawei. Unless they live in the USA, they maybe even have a Huawei product of some kind. But I think the big blowing up situation on Huawei in the West came after, like you said, 2018, 2019. Not exactly for good reasons, which is what we are going to discuss later. But I think you know much more about the origins of the company and things like that than me. So when was the company created? What were the conditions and what were the objective of it?
Yeah, the company was created by Ren Zhengfei and 4 other co-investors in 1987. And in the time in 1987, they established a company in Shenzhen, which was one of the special economic zones where reform and opening up was being trialed. You could create a private company. That was something pretty new at the time. And him and these 4 other investors, they wanted to create a telecoms company because one of the goals of the government was to, one of the defense aims of the country, and one of the things that Ren Zhengfei thought was very, very important, was to build a national telecoms network that was not using foreign providers. And there's some stuff that happened before this. So Ren Zhengfei, his parents were teachers that were admonished. They were made to eat the bitter, whatever they say, cool during the Cultural Revolution. And then at a time when he was trained as an engineer, I think an electronics engineer or a telecommunications engineer. And then during the Cultural Revolution, he joined the army because that was like one of the only places where you could make a lot of progress in technology. And he worked in communications, I believe, in the army. So he got this military training, and this influenced him a lot. And he got this Maoist education, which influenced him a lot. And when he started Huawei, he was doing it with the goal of improving China's security by beginning to transition the telecommunications industry away from foreign providers who were working in the country at that time. And in 1987, there was only 5 to 10 of them, and they only had $5,000 between them. And they basically started in his office. And what they were doing were they were trying to resell foreign components, just building up a supply chain and doing import-export of telephone switches. And then a lot isn't very clear. They transitioned from that into doing R&D. So within 3 years, they got a massive amount of investment from somewhere, probably from connections in the military or the government or in the party. It's all very, very generous loans from China Development Bank, which would later give them even more money. But they used this money to buy foreign components, disassemble and reverse engineer them, and then they built China's first domestically produced private telephone switch. So a private telephone switch is what you would use in a hotel or an office, where some nice lady is at the desk and goes, "Hello, forwarding you to the now." Like in Twin Peaks, the lady in the police department, she has a private telephone switch. And it's very simple technology. Time out, you're calling me sexist.
No, not at all. But you're going to kill me, but I haven't watched Twin Peaks yet.
Oh, yeah. I know you haven't watched Twin Peaks.
I want to watch it. I wanted to start it early, and I'm just waiting for my girlfriend to come back to watch it together.
Twin Peaks' first season, I think, was also 1987.
I think so.
Yeah.
It was before the 90s, right?
Yeah. So Twin Peaks' first season and Huawei's first 3 years can be compared directly. They have a very narrow focus. They build high-quality products, and they're doing something new that no one else has done before. And then in 1990, they hit 65 or 70 employees, and they have a ridiculous amount of cash flow at this point, and they're just constantly expanding because everyone in the government can see the value of having a domestic telecoms company. And then Huawei makes a lot of lofty promises, and then they keep developing telephone switches, basically the first thing they do. So they step up from private telephone switches to China's first node telephone switch, so like something that you would have on the end of a street or something. And then they keep getting bigger and bigger, and then they know that they're going to diversify eventually. One of the things that Huawei does throughout its history is continually look forward and develop advanced technology early, like they will do with 5G. But even before then, by the end of the 90s, they build the first like wireless communication nodes. So like the first wireless receivers in cities, domestically produced, are built by Huawei. At this time, they're still mostly using foreign parts to develop China, but Huawei is learning a lot this whole time. So from 87 until about 2000 is when they're learning how to become a massive telecoms provider, and they're learning from other countries. They also get initially 10 billion from the China Development Bank as a line of credit to expand to other countries in Africa and the Middle East. This goes up to 30 billion within like a year. So they're definitely being like fostered by the government, groomed by the government to become like the giant that they were today. There's a lot of controversy about the origin story being like, this little like Amazon company founded in a garage, when it's never true, is it, of any of the major corporations we have today. They had five people in a flat at one point disassembling telephone switches, but that probably only lasted for about a year.
Exactly. I mean, even if they start like that, it's clear that they pretty quickly got some traction from the government or like people in high places anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even if they got that so much help at the beginning, it's true that the vision that they had is what probably made them expand so quickly. And to be able, like, you don't get unlimited funds like that from the government or like, again, other companies or other banks, if you cannot prove you have a good idea and that idea is feasible.
Yeah.
And what you were saying before about like how they develop like this wireless communication network, domestic.
Yeah, very early wireless communication, like the giant brick cell phones.
Even if they are using like foreign components, that is going to be a constant until very recently for Chinese develop any kind of devices or things like that, because the technology transfer for components of telecommunications or anything that involves like radiation, infrared, Wi-Fi, anything like that, the technology transfer is almost null in these things, because there are very few companies that have not a monopoly, but almost on the fabrication processes. In many cases, they involve like really huge lines of communication between many companies that are again very enclosed, and they have a really tight control by the respective governments back abroad. So in the end, it's really difficult to start getting traction on manufacturing these components on your own, especially in the China that you could find in the early 2000s.
Yeah, well, Ren Zhengfei is like a very smart guy. I'm going to praise him a lot in this, because I think every time I see a funny quip from him, I think he's very funny. His favorite like Maoist like terminology was like this like battle strategy, or like this doctrine, you would call it, from the Civil War, where the Maoist idea was to, whenever you're fighting to control a city, you control the countryside around the city first and then you move in. So the Huawei idea was to take rural applications that people didn't want to go into first, telephone switches, rural networks, and then move into consumer technology. One of the earliest contracts they got was with the army to develop a telephone switching solution for them. And they probably spent more money than they got from the contract. But Ren Zhengfei said that the contacts he got in the army from doing that was worth, many, many more, like much more money than the contract was ever worth.
Investment is not always about money.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
especially in China.
Yeah, if you don't get a net return in money, you will get it in any other way. You have to just play your cards smart.
What you said about the production chains is very interesting too, because in the early days of telecoms, I mean, your technology much more resembles a military radio network than it does any kind of like short frequency like 5G service. So as the production chains changed, Huawei also changed its business model. And then the the other thing that is often disputed about Huawei is whether it's state-owned or a private enterprise because of all this assistance they've had from the government. And even the stock model, like the share owning model of the company is so insanely convoluted that it makes you like confused whether it's a private company. So it's technically a worker-owned company, according to Ren Zhengfei, because all the employees get stock in the company. But the stock is a limited, not tradable stock.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't be used for voting, but it's used in the trade union. But it's not a trade union, it's a Chinese trade union.
It's a company in which you can buy stocks and trade stocks, but only if you're a worker, and it's not open to public trading.
Yeah.
So it's a really complex situation. Do we have any like direct comparison in the West?
No, the closest I was thinking about was Tesla, because Tesla used to pay its employees in stock.
Used to.
Yeah, but Tesla could always, used to. This was a long time ago. Tesla, I think the stocks were a lot less limited. And I mean, one of the things I was thinking about is the differences in voting rights from being a Tesla employee with Tesla stock and being a Huawei employee with like non-voting, restricted, fake Huawei stock is no different. The Tesla employee who owns a tiny like fraction of a piece of Tesla stock is not going to be able to get rid of Elon Musk, just as someone who has just joined Huawei is not going to be able to get rid of Ren Zhengfei.
Yeah, and they're not open to public trading. Tesla is.
The power that they do have is to appoint the head of the Huawei trade union. And the Huawei trade union is a special type of Chinese trade union, which looks much more like a party branch than it does a trade union in the West. So it's essentially the same as any other Chinese company where you get to vote for your party branch head instead of being able to vote for the CEO.
Well, and also those stocks, they also sell like a profit return at the end of the day.
Yeah, so when you leave Huawei, they trade in all your stocks and then they pay you whatever it's worth, which for some people would probably be stupid amounts of money.
Yes, it's a really high amount of money. Everyone that I hear that works there, they talk about they usually have to work overtime.
Yeah.
They are still mostly on the 9 hours.
Yeah, so the Huawei working hours have stayed the same since its conception, which is like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., almost 7 days a week.
That is something that is very common on like the high-ranking technological companies in China.
Huawei definitely is the worst one though.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, like people talk about like ByteDance and people talk about fucking whatever companies in China you can think of. But these companies, like, they don't have this like crazy like Maoist military guy drilling the company. They send them to like what would you call it, boot camps every year. Like all the employees have to go to like a little like fake military boot camp. It really reminds me of, every time I read about him, he reminds me of, because I watched the film recently, the class teacher from Battle Royale. If you've ever seen it. Like
Takeshi Kitano.
Yeah. Like this kind of like psycho guy who's like snapped a little bit.
Does he look like Takeshi Kitano?
I've never seen a photo of Ren Zhengfei. In my head, I just picture them looking the same.
Okay, we're gonna have to put a picture now.
No, pause it, and then you can look it up and tell me if he does look like him. I'm checking if we're still on. Yeah, we're still on. Oh, that's a nice sunset. Fucking hell.
He kind of like.
Let's have a look. Put it. Oh, I can see it a little bit. And now that I've seen his face, I have seen a photo of him before. He does not look like Takeshi Kitano.
A bit.
No, you can't fall down this rabbit hole. I think when the other guy is older, he might have this. This hairstyle is the same between the two. I tell you what, if we're doing a Huawei biopic, I know who we're casting as Ren Zhengfei.
Are you recording again?
Yeah, no, I didn't pause it. I'll just edit. You'll edit it out later.
Yeah, so... Okay, yeah, he kind of looks like.
He does look a little bit. We're casting him as the fan cast for Ren Zhengfei is... Say his name?
Takeshi Kitano.
Dude,
you don't know Takeshi Kitano?
No, that was the first thing I'd seen him in. I know that he's in other movies because I've seen the trailers and I've seen the posters.
He's also a singer.
Yeah. Oh, right. No.
A really good singer, by the way.
We didn't sing at all in Battle Royale.
Yeah, I think he was busy doing other things. But yeah, I'm gonna put like as one of his songs as the intro.
Yeah. But yeah, and then there's this other story which isn't published in any of the literature, which Huawei tell their employees. So I did in 2020. I took part in a program called the Huawei Seeds for the Future program, which is like a month-long kind of like, not even an internship, what would you call it? Like a company experience or something. You're supposed to fly to China for it, which is why I applied, because I wanted to come back after 2019.
Yeah, but I guess it didn't happen.
No. The whole thing was done remotely, which is very, very funny. Like there was like remote activities involving a tour of 798, which was just a guy on his phone walking around 798 on a Zoom call.
No way.
With really bad signal. And then another one was like a Buddhist drawing tutorial thing, you know, like painting the Buddha with the right proportions. That was done remotely as well. But there was a lot of like Huawei company culture stuff and like talking about different parts of the company, like its 5G networks and its Internet of Things and its you know, this and that.
Yeah.
But the first thing we did was like a history of Huawei, introduction to the company. And they gave us this anecdote about Ren Zhengfei when they were doing import-export stuff still. And he's walking up and down the offices, probably in their Hong Kong branch at the time. And they've got a window, like you can't see his window, but they've got like a big window at the end of the office, and then they've got desks on either side, like leading up. Mm-hmm. And he's like, guys, this is the target, the quota for today. This is how much money you need to make. If you don't make it by 6 p.m., I'm jumping out that window. I'm gonna fucking kill myself if you don't hit the quota today. So that's what early.
And they share like, don't you see how funny our boss is?
they told a bunch of foreigners that, and like these African guys like nodding their head, being like, yes, this is how a real company is run.
They are saying it to foreigners, and if you say to many foreigners, they were like, do it.
But
do it now.
That's
do it
crazy.
Now.
This anecdote doesn't make it into another one of my rants I'm going to go on to later. Is House of Huawei, this book by Eva Dou. Did you read any of the excerpts? Did you hear any of the
No.
Eva Dou's crazy. I love Eva Dou. But she didn't mention this. No one managed to mention to the Washington Post reporter that he was he was threatening to jump out a window in the first like 5 years of the company opening.
I guess this is the kind of things that you have to be there to hear about it. You cannot hear about it in any report.
I think they were like, these are our guys, these are our seeds for the future. We're going to tell them about the CEO threatening to jump out the window. And then they're like, Washington Post reporter, have some tea. You know, let's talk about the future of the Internet of Things.
But yeah, I mean, if you say to an audience of like young students, they're gonna say like, what is the problem with him jumping out of the window? What is the problem with my boss just offing himself?
If you talk to any 996 worker now, they'll probably be like, yeah, I would jump out straight after him.
Exactly. I don't think the reaction was what they were expecting to find, you know?
Yeah, he's starting a chain reaction of people jumping out of windows. Right, so we got up to about 2000 after they've been given $30 billion by the Development Bank of China. This is when the company is almost too big to recap the entire history of. But in 2004, they get their like first lawsuit for doing IP theft from Cisco, which alleges that a Huawei employee bought a piece of Cisco technology, disassembled it to do some reverse engineering, and then returned it for the refund. And that was like...
I love that guy. I love that guy.
Which is great. I'm happy they figured that they shouldn't be doing that in 2004 and not in 2020.
That is the kind of thing, the kind of anecdote that they should be like happily sharing to students to say how cool they are.
Yeah.
Like, guys, we return the goods that we reverse engineer to the manufacturer. That's how cool we are.
We're not giving you we're not approving your FAPIAO.
Exactly.
Don't send us
that's how we roll here, okay, guys?
Don't send us a fucking FAPIAO.
If they told me that in an activity like the one that you took part in, it's like, fuck, I want to work in Huawei now.
Yeah, and mid 2000s lines up with like peak, like China's stealing all our stuff. So it's not surprising that they were stealing some technology allegedly. They settled that one out of court. I don't think they get sued again or any big accusations until like 2008, 2010. Sorry. This is when they start to invest in 3G infrastructure. And I didn't fucking realize that 3G was a thing in 2004 or 2005.
It was, but it was like, because at that time, the SMS and a part of the voice telephone calls were also transmitted through early 3G.
Yeah.
It was already like a different network. But of course, it was not thought about the transmission of data like what we have now
Yeah.
to download things on your phone, because that was not even a thing. Well, when was the BlackBerry?
The BlackBerry movie is also what I'm thinking about in the back of my head.
Exactly.
The BlackBerry stuff takes place from, I think, like 2009 till about 2011.
Yeah, so it's not so far away, but it's still
2011, 2012 is when we get 3G in the UK.
things that happened in 2004. Friends ends.
Yeah.
So, okay, last season of Friends.
I think Lost starts in 2004, 2005.
Yeah. I think The Office, American version, also begins.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, things are on the same time.
Well, I'm 4 years old, so I don't need to know about it.
I'm 5. Don't remind me. So, yeah, when you put it into that perspective, it helps you to like realize how early everything is.
I think the 3G thing, reading about that was significant for me, because I thought, like, well, if they're already thinking about 3G infrastructure in 2005, then they're already going ahead. I didn't mention that in the 90s, they have a bunch of investments. I did briefly. They have a bunch of investments in the Middle East and Africa. In 2003, all of the Huawei telecoms networks in Iraq are bombed by the US Air Force. And this is mentioned in an interview with Eva Dou as like a funny moment. And it's like, fuck, like you just bombed all of this like sovereign nation's telecoms infrastructure. And that's like...
Same reaction to when they bombed the Chinese embassy.
Right, exactly.
Like,
They don't
oh,
give a
sis,
shit.
huh?
Yeah. And I mean, Huawei went and rebuilt all that stuff. 2000 to 2010 is when they're also expanding into Europe. So this is when the 3G infrastructure comes in the UK. We have British Telecoms as our like national one, and they avoid using Huawei for most of it. They only use infrastructure from Nokia, which is Norwegian. I didn't know until like reading about it. And then the rest of them are like all in on Huawei. So I think during this period, like a growing portion of the UK's telecoms networks, and presumably the rest of Europe, is like being built by Huawei. And they're building, what the fuck are they called? The not wireless routers. There's a different name for it, like indexes, I think, for like different spectrum allocation.
Yes.
And putting stuff up on poles, basically. They're built. So Huawei's business model has always been to develop telecoms infrastructure first as the conquering the countryside strategy, and then to target consumer electronics. And at the end of the 2010s, at the end of the 2000s, they introduced their first cell phone?
Handheld.
What the fuck is it called? Hand unit or something, they called it.
I just call it handheld.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah, the first phone.
Yeah.
I think it's really easy to forget, like the main focus on Huawei, at least until very recently, it was like telecom, the core of it, because now they are much more lent on the consumer side of the market, and I think they're gonna keep being, but still that doesn't mean they are not involved in the current development of 5G and the future installation of 6G, which is expected to happen already between 2028 and 2030.
Yeah, I mean,
which is not so far away already.
I'm already like a 5G hater, so...
Why?
Because I think it's pointless.
I think it's pointless as a consumer. It's not pointless when you see the path of digitalization that the whole country is going through. When you are saying, like, for example, the development of drone-based infrastructure, when you have such a huge data-driven, advanced consumer society like we are developing in China now, it's really easy to imagine that the data transfer is going to be much more. It's entirely
a personal thing. It's not a rational thing at all. I'm just like, I don't need to have such high-speed wireless communication on my phone when I don't have it on my computer.
Exactly. Like, you don't need it to watch YouTube videos on your phone.
I think if we didn't have 5G, then we wouldn't have people playing videos out loud on the metro.
That's a good point to take into account.
And there's a lot of things that I find annoying that wouldn't be there if we didn't have 5G. And when I see 6G coming in, I'm like, really, man? 6G seems like something with only industrial applications.
I think it's going to be. But because you look at the speeds, and most of the people, they don't need the speeds that they require now with 5G, you know? But also, having 6G is going to have more annoying people playing loud videos on the bus. I don't think so.
No, because they already have that with 5G.
Exactly. It's not going to change. It already happened with 3G. It's going to keep happening with 5G or 6G or whatever.
I mean, I can see 6G being more convenient because if not the bandwidth, if the data rate is higher, then surely like the cell towers in very busy places in airports and on trains and in train stations won't get so overloaded. Yeah. When there's too many people attached, like a cell tower, especially when you're riding like the Chongqing line, and you can't do anything on your phone because if some grandma's watching her micro dramas.
Yeah, because everyone is using their phone.
That's the use case for 6G and robots,
and also like self-driven cars.
Yeah. Do you know what Huawei people told me? One of the applications for 6G is for wireless VR streaming.
Wireless what?
VR streaming. Like your headset is doing cloud-based graphics processing and the video is being streamed via 6G to the headset.
Why do you need 6G for that?
Why can't you just process it on your computer? What's wrong with PC-based VR?
Don't ask me. I mean, it's these kind of things that they have a really niche industrial
application. For an application.
Exactly. I think they are developing the network before the application because like the whole history of Huawei is like being one step forward.
Exactly.
Or at least thinking one step forward.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go to a funny story about it later. But yeah, I mean, you cannot have the application that requires such a high speed of data communication and then create that network. You have to have the network before that. But yeah, I can think like self-driven cars are going to need a really fast speed.
Yeah, 100%. And so I mean, this leads into what I was going to go into next, is the history of Huawei from the 2010s to the 2020s is so fucking complex, mostly because this involves them selling off their smartphone branch, building a second smartphone branch. So they sell off Honor to a Shenzhen-based company to avoid US sanctions so that Honor phones can still be sold in the West. And then they start their Huawei Mate series, which is a very successful smartphone line, like really successful. They're one of the first Chinese smartphone lines to be sold outside China at like very, very large volumes. They do their autonomous vehicle vision networking software spin-off company, and they do HiSilicon. HiSilicon, I think, starts in the early 2010s, which is the Huawei domestic chip manufacturing spin-off company. These are all subsidiaries which would take, hours of research that we don't have time for to figure out exactly. But then you get all these subsidiaries, and it's becoming very clear that Huawei isn't just like a private company that's doing a lot of telecoms infrastructure. They have a much, much grander vision for the future of like the Chinese internet, for digital China and stuff.
And even if each one of these companies is like really niche, if you say so, for the average consumer outside, you can see that everything responds to a need of the higher vision that they have for the country and for the telecom in the country as a whole. And that is something that we're gonna go see later. So
I think in this period of like diversification and like trying to satisfy the needs of like the Chinese government, this sets off alarm bells. This is like leading up to 2018. 2018, after the first election of Donald Trump, is when Huawei is sanctioned by America after allegations of wire hacking in Australia and in Europe and also in America. So they're put on the entity list in 2019. In 2018, they are banned from using Huawei infrastructure for 5G, which is mostly fine for America because I don't think...
Because they don't have 5G still?
I think their 5G build...
They don't have to worry about
their
it.
Their 5G build-out starts between 2016 and 2018, and the worry is that Huawei is going to get a bunch of contracts for this because of the main thing is that Huawei technology is very, very cheap.
Do you hear, do you remember all the conspiracy theories that they were like hanging around during like those years, 2018, 2020, about the installation of 5G?
Yeah, we have those in the UK.
We have them everywhere.
But
they all come from the USA.
Yes. Yeah, but I don't think it matters whether it was Huawei or not. I wanted to get into the 5G stuff because it's so funny.
It doesn't matter, but they were all focused on, like, at that time, everyone assigns Huawei to the only company that was installing 5G in Europe. And all these conspiracy theories are like being like propagated by many communicators that are based in the USA.
Yeah.
And it also made me think, like, do you hear what happened in the Philippines with the COVID vaccine?
No.
The Chinese developed the COVID vaccine. I think it was like 2021.
The Sinovac, the first wave.
Yeah, the first. I don't know if it was Sinovac, but one of the first batches. And they sent a really big amount of them to the Philippines. And that was the time that the USA also started to like propagate conspiracy theories about COVID and the COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
Especially aimed for the Philippines population.
Yeah.
So it's also like another side of like trying to like badmouth Chinese-based companies or any kind of Chinese-based enterprise as a whole. By these like conspiracy theories that many people took as a whole at that time.
First term Trump has a repeating pattern of making some official action against a Chinese entity, Huawei, or blaming them for COVID. And either intentionally or unintentionally, I think.
It was intentional.
The Philippine vaccine stuff was 100% intentional.
And the conspiracy theories from
5G,
from the 5G, I'm sure it was.
I don't know if it was because it harmed America just as much as it helped them, because there were people in America like protesting against 5G implementation by like Nokia and like, you know, domestic American companies building telecoms infrastructure.
Yeah, but the way they propagated into the European Union,
definitely
like
helped them in Europe.
Exactly, aiming for a specific market, for a specific public.
It's part of a wider trend of xenophobia. And I'm sure there are reasonable allegations. This is what everyone says. I'm sure there are reasonable allegations against Huawei, but xenophobia definitely plays a part of it.
Is the biggest one.
The biggest part of it,
exactly.
yeah.
And there are reasons also like 5G is bad. Like, well, I wouldn't like to have a 5G antenna hanging over my ceiling, you know? No one would. But that is something that is not that doesn't come from the fact of it being 5G, 3G, whatever, or being Huawei, or being Nokia, or being whatever. It's just like you don't want to have like a really huge microwave emitter on your head.
Yeah.
Dot. That's the end of it. But the other thing that I wanted to go before arriving to 2018 and all the measures that happened that also affect us directly, because our university is also in the same batch of countermeasures against China as Huawei. The thing is, like, these series of attacks against Huawei, based or not, doesn't begin in 2018. Actually begins in like 2012. There are already some representatives of the Congress that start saying that Huawei is engaging in some adulterous market.
Yeah, it's evading US sanctions.
Yeah.
That's the thing that they get them on, especially sanctions on Iran. So a lot of the stuff in the US...
I think at that time it was not Iran. At that time it was North Korea in 2012. And then the Iran sanctions, they come in 2018, which is what they use to later keep going with the same, with the rest of sanctions and the rest of measures. But it is in 2012 when they get the first heads up, like, hey, these guys might fuck us over in the future, in the near future.
They're also competing for contracts in the UAE at this time.
Yes.
And the UAE is when the US Huawei stuff really like kicks off because the US kept begging the UAE to like buy 5G infrastructure from them and not Huawei, basically so the US could spy. So the US could spy on them instead of Huawei. And they even said like threatened like the supply of like F-35 fighter jets to the UAE if they went with Huawei. And the UAE official said, sorry, it's just so much cheaper and it doesn't come with so much political baggage. And they bought Huawei in the end.
Yeah, exactly. But this is the first moment that they realize they need to start planning a way to get out of USA-based markets. Yeah. And USA-based lines of communication, lines of providers, anything. Yeah. And that is the time that they start beginning this diversification campaign in many different ways that culminates around 2021, because it's also, many people forget it, but after 2018, the company goes through a really big patch. They spend like 2 or 3 years that are really difficult for the development of the company as a whole. And in some circles, they were starting doubting about if the company was gonna be able to stay afloat.
Yeah.
They obviously did. What was the big affair that kickstart all these measures against Huawei?
You mean the Canada thing?
Yeah.
Yes, the daughter of the CEO, whose name is... Mom?
It was not the daughter of the CEO. It was the daughter of the founder.
The daughter of the founder?
Yeah. And she was actually the board deputy chairperson.
Yes.
She was
the CFO.
Yeah.
The CFO, Mong.
I'm not really...
She was the CFO when she was arrested.
No, I mean, I don't know like what is the terminology for all these different positions inside.
Chief Financial Officer.
Board deputy chairperson, whatever. Meng Wanzhou, she got detained on December the 1st of 2018.
Yeah.
And she was deported the moment that she, not deported, she was arrested the moment that she arrived on the Vancouver International Airport.
She was charged in Canada, and she was also, they started an extradition trial against her to the US.
It was the USA who gave the order of getting detained the moment that she put a step on the country.
Yeah.
And because of all these charges that we have been discussing before about trying to evade the sanctions against Iran.
They charged her with doing fraud against HSBC to transfer money to a client in Iran or something like that.
They also charged her of some espionage.
Yeah, they charged her with espionage. That's the main one.
Yeah, many things. And as a retaliation, I'm going to explain like the whole thing that happens later. China imprisons like two Canadian citizens, Michael Spavor and Michael Kobrix. The thing with these guys is like this also causes a big outrage in the West because it's like many people propagate it as a case of, we are detaining a Chinese national, but with good reasons,
Yeah.
And they are detaining two Canadian nationals for no reason, just because we did the right thing. The thing is like actually they were both detained also in a case of espionage.
Yeah.
And in the end, it turns out that Michael Kobrick was actually a spy.
Yeah.
And Michael Spivor, they were colleagues. And he was being used by the other Michael to also being involved in this case of espionage. Michael Spivor begins a criminal case against the government, against the Canadian government, saying like he was being used without his consent for this espionage campaign.
Yeah.
And the government has to compensate him. So in the end,
they are
all
spies.
these claims were true.
Yeah.
So yeah, this case, this is the kind of things like you don't hear so much about it in the West.
No, it doesn't make headlines when a spy is arrested for spying.
No. It only makes headlines when they got arrested, but they don't make headlines after you see the whole trial.
Yeah.
And you hear like, we actually have to tell this guy, our government had to pay this guy because he was being used in a network of espionage without him knowing.
Yeah.
Kind of things like...
In retrospect, it does make sense because it means that you can come to terms with the fact that, Meng was probably spying on behalf of the Chinese government.
Exactly.
I have no doubt about it. Or not spying, just doing sanctions evasion.
Exactly.
Sanctions evasion is also fake crime.
Easy to say, like, the Chinese are spying on us, but it's not easy to say, we are also
spying on them. Yeah. That doesn't get acknowledged. And it makes sense that, in retaliation, you would arrest two people you at least suspect of being espionage suspects. I don't think they would have arrested the other Michael if they knew that he was, what did they say, used without his consent.
I don't think they knew that he was being used. Exactly.
Like if they can find out that both of these people are doing espionage and one of them is accidentally being tricked into doing espionage, then they're going to arrest both of them. Yeah. But it's interesting to think about what they would have done in the other case where one of the Michaels gets arrested and the other guy's like, wait, what?
What is going on? And the other guy, I'm going to tell you later. Don't worry. I'm going to tell you what both of us are into.
Yeah.
When Meng Wanzhou gets out of jail, she was in house arrest. When she gets out of house arrest, both Michaels also get deported back to Canada. Yeah. And they just drop the charges.
It's a shame. Have you seen her Toronto house? It's very nice. She said she's also on record saying multiple times how much she loves Toronto.
Yeah.
Now she can probably never go back.
Yeah, bad experience, but
It's really funny that our podcast is like, we feel bad for the person who's probably a Chinese spy.
That's the way we roll. I think everyone knows where our heart is right now.
Yeah, the funny thing is as well, like, you know what happens when you arrest a rich person and do some like dodgy extradition? Because when she gets to America, she immediately files like 12 countersuits, like improper search, improper arrest, like false arrest, like every single like civil liberty or whatever. So she obviously has some really fucking good American lawyers that file like 20 different countersuits. And in the end, they settle out of court. And the result of her trial is she has to admit in a written statement that she did lie to HSBC, but she doesn't get charged with any of the crimes that she was accused of.
Win-win.
But like this is what's confusing to me, is like, if you're rich and you do a crime, the punishment for that crime is like being made to write down, yes, I did the crime, and then you're let off.
Yes. But that's how it works overall.
Yeah, like it's insane
in many
to
places in the world.
It's insane to me that the justice system can have a situation where you've pled guilty, you've been, let off the hook in exchange for a written statement that says you did the crime.
I think it's also because at that moment, the Canadian government and the USA knew that they were getting into muddy waters.
Yeah, I think
they didn't want to carry on with anything else because they knew the whole situation started to backfire in many different ways.
Also, it took like 2 years to wrap up. Like the extradition trial took 5 months. She's arrested in January, and it takes them 5 months to send her to America. Because imagine being
that's the way things goes in these cases. Yeah.
How much money all the lawyers got paid for 5 months of extradition hearings.
But yeah, I mean, the whole situation is that at the end of it, even if the USA imposes the sanctions on Huawei and many other Chinese companies and Chinese institutions, many Chinese universities, the thing is that at the end, after the couple of years in Huawei, and they have to like restructure and replan the future ahead, the thing is that these measures also backfire for the USA, like that what we are saying is something similar to what we are saying in the sanctions against Russia.
Yeah.
It seems like if you want to sanction a country that has its own way of growing outside your market, it's going to backfire on you at the end.
So, I mean, if we get to the 2020s, we should also say that in 2018, when the sanctions are being applied to Huawei, what this means is that American companies and companies that want to work with America, as the sanctions get more strict, that includes companies that want to work, like, including Samsung is a really big one, but also TSMC, they cannot sell stuff to Huawei. So in 2018, they stockpile as many chips as they can to keep their smartphone production going for at least like 4 or 5 years. And this is why their stock price drops so much. Exactly. Not because the smartphone sales drop, but because people project that into the future, they will literally run out of chips to put in the smartphones.
And not only projecting into the future, but anyone that has any tie to Huawei, that Huawei is buying from them or sending them, they are also losing the whole exchange. In turn, all the companies from the USA that were doing some kind of commerce with Huawei, Intel, Qualcomm, Teradyne, whatever, they all lose 33 billion in sales between 2021 and 2024. In 3 years, 33 billion. That's a massive amount that they couldn't take at the time. Yeah, you can see a massive drop of the sales in this and the stock market in of these companies. But that is not the only way that the whole situation backfires for the USA. In turn, this forces Huawei to accelerate the plans for diversification and investment in many fields. And that is what makes them realize and fully attain the successful implementation of their own environment, of their own connected network of devices for the consumers. Yeah, this is what makes them the beginning of the Huawei that we begin to know nowadays, because this is when they start to become, the Chinese Apple. Yeah, it's complicated because they do diversify before. They start all their automotive vision, and one of the fucking spin-offs I didn't mention, which is one of the most successful, is now under sanctions too, is the Huawei solar technologies, because they sell solar panel inverters that turn DC into AC. And they're the biggest supplier in the world of that. But yeah, in the 2020s,
they recognize that their pivot to consumer electronics has to be diversified because they no longer have access to 7 nanometer chips, which is the main thing that they need for smartwatches and smartphones.
No, not only the nanometer chips.
Yeah.
The 7 nanometer chips. It's also all the phones, the Huawei phones by then, they were still running on Android.
Yeah.
They don't have access to doing any kind of exchange with Google anymore.
Yes, it's
they have to accelerate the development of their own software, their own operating system, which is already Harmony OS. Now they're going for the Harmony 2. The leaps are like much more space in time than what we use with iOS.
First they developed their own branch of Android in 2018.
Yes.
That's supposed to be perpetual. And then they recognized that Harmony OS is a better solution, which is completely different from Android.
Not only because it allows them to not break any of the sanctions that they have been imposed, but also because one of the appeals of Apple, like everyone knows that Apple products are overpriced. But when you're buying Apple, you're not buying only the product in itself. You're also buying like the whole ecosystem of products.
Yes.
Like if you buy an iPhone, then you're gonna probably go buy the iWatch and the iPods or whatever they're called, the headphones. Yeah. The AirPods, yeah. You're going to buy everything in the same ecosystem because it's optimized for it.
But Harmony OS claims to be a distributed ecosystem, which is even more different than what Apple does. That means the processing between your phone, your smartwatch, your earphones, your fucking power bank.
It's the next step.
Yeah.
But for the consumer, it helps understand better the whole company and the whole a range of products that they sell as a whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
Suddenly, if you want to buy a Huawei phone, then probably if you buy any other electronics from them, it's also going to be Huawei.
Yeah.
You're going to stop considering most of the market for many of these purchases, and this is what makes them so convenient for the consumer that can pay them. Because they are overpriced if you compare it to other brands, but also, if you're buying Huawei, you're buying the whole ecosystem, you're buying the best quality, you're buying like the self-developed chips and electronics.
So the self-developed chips, we need to talk about in 2023, high silicon. Well, they're not, it's never officially announced, but what happens is they release the Huawei Mate 60 and it causes a lot of headlines because in like the specification, it's what's the fucking processor called?
The Kirin.
The Kirin 8000? Kirin 8000. So the Kirin is a domestically produced smartphone chip. And I think it is a little overblown, to be honest, because chip stuff always is by hype people on X and YouTube. But the Kirin is a domestically produced 7 nanometer chip manufactured by High Silicon. And it comes as a shock because they didn't announce it. They didn't tell anyone that they were developing it. But between their like survival mode in like 2018 and 2023, they managed to pull together enough people and resources and take enough technology from elsewhere to build a 7 nanometer node, which means a chip manufacturing pipeline in China.
The biggest surprise doesn't come because they didn't announce it before. The biggest surprise comes because everyone thought that China couldn't produce such a chip.
Yeah.
Because most of the chips are made nowadays by a technology that revolves around the idea of EUIB, extreme ultraviolet.
Yeah.
That means that you need to, essentially you heat up really, really hot millions of droplets of tin, really small droplets of tin, and that generates an ultraviolet light that is exactly in the small enough bandwidth such as to imprint the designs that you want onto your chip in a very very short explanation.
Yeah.
The only company nowadays that we know, because China has their own way of their own technology that hasn't been completely or fully disclosed.
No, we don't know what the 7 nanometer chip uses, but I don't think it's EUV.
Exactly. They use something different. We don't fully know it yet. But I think it's like the only company that builds machines that are able to do this process are based in Denmark.
Yeah, it's ASML. ASML builds the giant like shipping container size machines.
It's a huge
that can
machine,
do this thing. And they only sell those to a few companies, and obviously China's excluded, and also the software is just as important as the big machines, and China doesn't have access to that, but they do have access, and that can do 4 nanometers or fucking like, right?
4, I think 3, they call it 3 plus.
Yeah. But it's 3 to 4, which is also a fake number anyway. But that can do more advanced stuff than what China can currently do. And people say China is still 5 to 10 years behind. But they took such a giant leap that no one expected by getting to the 7 nanometer node that it caused headlines everywhere.
Exactly. Because China tried to acquire these machines in the past, in 2018, 2019, I think.
Yeah.
But the USA denied the purchase. And you will ask, why the USA is denying a purchase of a Denmark-based company? Well, that's geopolitics for you.
Yeah.
But they couldn't...
But also the USA surprised the software. So China would have to reverse engineer the software anyway if they got their hands on it.
Exactly. So it's not that like they managed to reverse engineer the whole thing. My guess is that they managed to find a solution or develop an alternative.
Yeah, it's an alternative. It's definitely some kind of other way of making it more efficient. But it's testament to Huawei's company culture. They definitely have this kind of nationalist drive. And the consumers also have this nationalist drive. So when this smartphone comes out, the marketing, the what do you call it? Like not intentional, the unintentional marketing that people do is like, oh my God, China's so strong. China's got this crazy new technology.
Yes.
It's domestic, it's beating Trump and all his sanctions and stupid shit. So the smartphones like fly off the shelves.
Exactly.
Because the nationalists
even if they are overpriced.
Even if they're overpriced. And even if a 7 nanometer smartphone is like fine.
I think they're really good.
Are they? I haven't tried one.
What you're buying, is really good quality overall.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I get like the subtext that they are getting.
Yeah.
But it's hard to not even like get influenced by knowing what they have achieved.
Yes, exactly.
Like, they have driven like the complete independence from the USA-based chain of commerce around the electronics and the silicon electronics as a whole.
Yeah.
Just by the whole campaign that they have been planning from
by driving the
15 years ago. Exactly, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's hard to not get like, well, this is kind of impressive,
Yeah. Well, also, we didn't even mention the Huawei, the name. Do you know where it comes from?
No.
Zhonghua Youwei is an old communist slogan that means...
Oh, I love it.
It means like Chinese civilization, Chinese people, the Zhonghua has potential or has achievements. So the Hua is shortened from Zhonghua, like people, and then Youwei means your achievements.
Yeah, it's not like they are sending a message, they are implementing it. They're realizing the message.
Yeah, it's definitely the vision of the one guy, and people do worry what's going to happen when he goes away. But for the foreseeable future, it seems like they're going to get more and more closely linked with like China's national goals. And I think the next big step for them is to kind of follow through on the stuff that they say they're going to do in self-driving cars, and to actually finish like making Harmony OS like finished. Because Harmony OS right now...
It is still a working development.
Yeah. And it does have its own ecosystem that developers need to develop for. So they need to get a lot more software people on board for Harmony OS to be successful.
The bad thing about Harmony OS is that it's its own ecosystem. So they don't have access to, for example, the Apple Store or the Play Store. All the new applications that are developed for mobile phones, they have to be redeveloped for Harmony OS.
Yeah.
So it's also a really huge pain for developers as a whole. But the more people that start using this ecosystem, the easier it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Around the self-driving cars and all the enterprises that they have with car manufacturers, because Huawei itself doesn't manufacture the cars, but in turn, what they do, they begin different enterprises with different companies, with different manufacturers, and they began developing together a new line of cars.
Yeah.
That they use the Huawei ecosystem or the Huawei technology, for example, for batteries. They have really good quality solid-state batteries, which they claim can achieve a range of 2,000 kilometers, which is huge, and they can be charged in around 5 minutes. Apart from that, they also have all this whole set of electronics, electrocommunication, and everything like that. So both sides are benefiting from it. You have manufacturer that has experience manufacturing the cars on its own, and you can also slap the Huawei brand of it, which actually just gives them like a plus in value for the consumers.
You get a lot more middle class Chinese people going like, good.
Yeah,
good
car. On the side of self-driving cars, I just search up the numbers that they are rocking up.
Yeah.
They compromise to invest at least $1 billion per year on self-driving technology. Yeah. Not in cars, self-driving technology. Yeah. Self-driving implementation.
So I can see them, it's like their software package seems to be mostly based around processing vision.
Yeah.
And it's one of those applications where I can see like, if a bunch of different cars are using the same self-driving vision platform, that's actually going to improve the quality of that platform. Because it's a database system where the more data you have, the more reliable it's going to be. And especially if they're helping out the self-driving like delivery vehicles, the massive meme on Twitter, then like, it's gonna be great for them.
That is the biggest like bump on the road for the implementation of self-driving cars. I wouldn't have said it better any other way. You need this technology or these cars to be completely implemented into society for them to be effective.
Exactly.
Because they are not based, many people think like what these cars do is just have a range of cameras or sensors and detect what is happening around them to react for them. But they don't have to react what is happening inside the car or in the environment of the car. They have to react to what is happening around every car and what other actions each car is gonna take to be able to not face any danger or put in danger the lives of bystanders of the drivers. So of course you need to communicate with cars around you. You need these cars to also have this technology and to be able to communicate back with you.
Yeah.
You need to have society adopting this technology up to a certain point before this technology achieves its fullest potential.
Yeah. We didn't even touch on what happened in the UK, but we're going to wrap up in a bit. I wanted to say what happened in the UK with Huawei.
Go for it.
So we have a very similar timeline with America, where in 2018 we initiate a bunch of security stuff against Huawei. But because we're not so China hawk as them, and also by 2018, 60% of our 5G infrastructure is already built by Huawei. So we're hold the horses on this. Huawei and GCHQ, our National Security Laboratory, they establish a joint research center for cybersecurity. And it's got half Huawei employees, half GCHQ people, which is crazy to me. I can't imagine what it must be like in that fucking office. Your next person is a Huawei and you're just are you a spy? But they spent 2 years trying to find backdoors in Huawei stuff, and they didn't find anything intentional. They just signal there's a couple software bugs, which is the same in all infrastructure.
Which is also something they're quite proud of. After all the espionage claims from the West countries, they're no, you have backdoors, and you search for them, and they don't have any.
They don't have any backdoors.
But Intel has them.
The only claim one was in Australia, where they said there was a backdoor that deleted itself after it was sent some data out, which is crazy to me. All the evidence deleted itself.
Yeah, guys, trust me on this. They have a backdoor. I cannot prove it.
It does sound like the Charlie and Always Sunny, connecting all the fucking dots.
It's really stupid because if you have a backdoor, it can delete itself. Why doesn't Intel have it? Why all the Intel backdoors have been caught? And by the way, you cannot have Intel silicon on government-based equipment now in the government of China.
Well, the only people that have ever been proved to use Huawei's networks for spying is the NSA. The NSA used the Huawei networks to spy in 2013, and it came out in the Snowden stuff. But the other thing that happened in the UK, so they said, right, we need to cut back on Huawei's stuff in our 5G infrastructure because it was a conservative government. And it's fucking Lord Eric Pickles or Sir Ian Duncan Smith, the chief China warhawks. They demanded that we get rid of all the Huawei stuff in our infrastructure. So they set a target by 2023. They had to get rid of all of the Huawei components in the core networks. And for BT, this isn't a problem. This is also BT lobbying for sure. Yeah. BT have no Huawei stuff in their networks. So they didn't have to do much at all. Vodafone have loads. And then 3, which is the smallest one, is almost entirely Huawei. So that wasn't completed by 2023. They gave them a year extension on that, which eventually all of them completed. This cost 500 million pounds and cost Vodafone 800 million pounds. And the goal was for 2025 to replace all of the Huawei technology with stuff. And that didn't get finished. So that's been extended to 2027. But basically where that's
It's not going to happen.
Where that's left is now like BT is like going to buy 3. Like, because like they're doing mergers in the UK where the companies that have had to rip out all of the Huawei technology and install Nokia stuff, which costs like fucking 2 or 3 times as much. They've taken so long on it. They've been fined so much money by the UK government that they're now in the position where they can just be bought out by like the one company that didn't do that.
I can imagine like this guy is going to the back of the company and saying, do we still have like the Huawei equipment that we took off?
Yeah.
Like, do you still have it hanging around? Can we just put it back?
I think now that Kitano's come to China, he's going to be like, fuck, we have to prevent this merger and we have to like put some of this stuff back in.
I think they're going to backpedal on it.
We're now out of all the countries in Europe, we're in the bottom 5 for 5G coverage, and we have like the worst service. So it's completely fucked us over on it.
Chinese coverage of 5G, I think, is like 92%.
95%.
Crazy.
95%. The UK is like 70.
You don't have 95% in any country in Europe.
Yeah. It's mental. And then I think it's about time to wrap up. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, we could be talking about this for ages because as you said, you have many things that you can discuss about the importance of Huawei and why it's in the situation that it is right now. I think we have covered the basics for everyone.
I would say I didn't get to do my rant about the House of Huawei book, but also I haven't read it. I've just read reviews about it. But I would say if you wanted to learn more about Huawei and the history of Huawei and the allegations against them, House of Huawei is relatively neutral. The problem is it's just a really boring book. All the reviews are like, either the reviews are like really like left-wing guys being like, I can't believe this person would say so much shit about a Chinese company and ignore all the American stuff. But if you know about the NSA and you know about like American spying and Israeli spying and like fucking Pegasus software and that kind of shit, then reading House of Huawei does give you a valid point because you can read it and go like, none of this stuff seems that bad. And also Eva Dou does like a really good background on the founder and like his family upbringing. And
even if it's true, it's like, well.
And also I feel
everyone has been doing the Pegasus thing.
I feel really bad for her because she wrote this book that's like kind of scaremongering about Huawei, but like kind of informative. And then guess what happens? Like the book is a fucking bestseller of the last year. She's been fired from the Washington Post now, and with like all the other reporters. So she did all this stuff and basically hasn't seen much for it. I reckon Eva Dou should come over and like write for like Sixth Tone or something.
I don't think there are many more efforts to be taken against Huawei now because everyone can acknowledge that fight is
I think
lost.
it's definitely like something where Huawei like came out on top against the US government.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah. Like no one would vote again for that.
I will end on this fucking interview quote that I saw, which was really funny because the whole thing in Huawei's history is it's always insisted that it's a worker-owned company, it's not a private company whenever it comes to Chinese stuff. But an American news outlet interviewed like the founder or something like a while ago, and he ended his interview with like, well, you know what you can see is like it takes the entire power of the US government to fight one private company. And then the interview, and that's the only time they've ever acknowledged it as a private company instead of a worker-owned company.
Well, because he owns still like 12% of the company.
I think it's because he's a bit of a shitter. I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. He knows how to appeal to both sides.
Yeah.
He's a really smart guy.
We should get him on the pod.
Play your cards. I think we might have a show in some years, but you don't achieve everything that they have done if you don't have a really strong mindset and a really strong planning capacity.
If you don't have the
thinking ahead.
If you don't have the teacher from Battle Royale as your CEO.
If you don't have Takeshi Kitano as your leader, like you're lost. And I don't have the USA have him.
All right. Thank you much for watching Days of Being Wild. Next week we'll be talking about something completely different, which we haven't decided yet.
Exactly.
Woo!